Hello and welcome to the Varsity podcast on NewsOK.com. Thank you for joining us. I am Oklahoman high school football writer Scott Wright, joined by Jacob Unruh. Week 10 is here. It's all coming to an end. This season has flown by. I don't know. I feel like I'm just getting old when I say that, but this season has just zipped by in just an incredible rate of speed. It feels like.
Yeah, I was actually telling my wife the other day. I said, wasn't I just covering the season opener like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
and it's just, oh wow, it's playoff time. So
yeah, it is, and this is always a crazy week for us because we have to sift through every district in the state, all 44 of them, and figure out all the different scenarios for everybody that might make the playoffs. And still a lot of teams still alive at this point. As we've gone through all of this. I think we've all agreed that one of the most unique ones, one of the most unique districts is Class 3A District 2. You've got a potential for two three-way ties, a three-way tie for first, a three-way tie for fourth, which is really pretty incredible and says a lot about the strength of the class. I think when you look at the teams in there, or that district anyway, when you look at the teams involved. But you're looking at Bethany, who faces John Marshall on Saturday this week. So we won't actually know the district champion until Saturday in this one. But they take on John Marshall on Saturday. They're sitting there at the top, undefeated. Douglas right behind those guys. John Marshall and Douglas tied with one loss apiece. Meeker is already done. They got the Week 10 bye. They're at 2-4 in the district. Blanchard at 2-3. Mount St. Mary's at 1-4. And Blanchard and Mount St. Mary play each other. So a really just a crazy district in all. At the beginning of the season, it looked like this was going to be a tough district. When you look at Douglas coming down after going to the semifinals in 4A last year. Blanchard coming off their second straight finals appearance. Bethany is always solid. Meeker was coming up after a great year in 2A last year. It looked like it was going to be a really tough district, and it has been, but it's been for completely different reasons than what we thought, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think you see John Marshall out there, and they're really starting to build the program up and get back to where they were years ago, and that's kind of throwing that district for a loop along with an improved Mount St. Mary team. They they haven't made the playoffs in 3 decades, I think, and it's been a really long time. And so this was the year they thought they could make the playoffs. And in a way, you look at it and think, well, yeah, they can, but then they're in that district where you've got 5 other really good teams that you go, well, that might keep them out because only 4 can get in.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mount St. Mary, last playoff appearance 28 years ago, last winning season that was 30 years ago. You're talking about a program that has been to the bottom. Chris Stiles took over this program. This is 4th season, and started to slowly, gradually build this program. He had some moderate success his first 2 years, but still no winning records, no playoff appearances, and that was done at the 2A level. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in 3A for the next cycle, and now they're trying to do it in 3A. And I'm writing about this for Wednesday's paper. Had to think about what day it was. That's how crazy this week is. For Wednesday's paper, so you can check it out on Wednesday, or go back and look at it if you're listening to this after Wednesday. But one of the interesting things about this district is when these districts were originally put together, Centennial was in this district, and John Marshall was in District 1. Mm-hmm. At that time, John Marshall and Centennial were both bottom feeders, both struggling programs. It didn't seem to make a real big difference. I don't know exactly what it was that the powers that be saw that made it necessary to make that flip, because it really looked like neither program. Nobody knew at that point that either program was on the way up. Mm-hmm. Centennial made a run and got into the playoffs last year, and John Marshall is doing what they're doing now. Nobody foresaw this for either of those programs. So it's really interesting that they made that flip. But if you look at it, that could have really made a big shift in the balance of power and even things out, because if you throw John Marshall into District 1 with Heritage Hall and Kingfisher and Perkins, that really kind of balances things out a lot better than mm-hmm. what we're looking at in District 2, where there are 6 quality teams, 6 playoff-worthy teams battling for 4 spots.
Yeah, that really flips the stuff. And I keep looking at Mount St. Mary because I've dealt with Styles and got to know some of those kids a little bit, that it's like you look at them and they think they finally get this chance, and that balance of power doesn't shift, and all the power is in that one district. Even though that other district, it would have been pretty fun to see a storyline of John Marshall versus Heritage Hall with Andy Bogert there. I would have liked to have seen that game in the regular season. Maybe we'll get in the postseason. But it's you just look at that district and you know all you gotta do is shake your head. It's a mess. I mean, when you think that Meeker, Blanchard, and Mount St. Mary are going to be tied at 3-3 if Mount St. Mary wins.
Yeah, and only one of them is going to go to the playoffs. Where you look at other districts in that class, and a team like Blackwell. Nothing against those guys, but they're not of the quality I don't think of a Meeker or Blanchard, Mount St. Mary. They're going to go to the playoffs. Little Axe and Star Spencer are battling for playoff spots. Sulphur and some other teams that are in the mix for some postseason berths. It's unfortunate to see. I mean, it always seems to work out this way though, because when you're projecting 2 years ahead for what your districts are going to be, it's tough to do. So things like this always happen, but. Definitely a lot of fun for Friday night and Saturday afternoon for that Bethany John Marshall game, which will be out at Douglas, and I'll be there for that. But looking through some of the other interesting classes, you're going to be out at Deer Creek for that big Guthrie Deer Creek game, which is even bigger than we expected. We thought it would probably be a lot on the line at this point, but certainly not a district title. Did we think?
No, I had no idea when we were looking at games before the season, and I saw this in week 10. I thought, that's going to be a good game because, I think they're both going to. I think you could clearly just kind of pencil them in as playoff teams before the season started in that district, but you didn't know what spot they would be playing for, and really, I didn't expect Guthrie to be undefeated at this point. You lose around 25 seniors off a championship team that won actually 2 titles during their for 4 years, and you kind of expect them to drop off a little bit, but yet here they are, just as dominant as they were before. Every report I've heard about them up front is that they're pretty much identical to what they were last year up front, and I think you knew they would be a good team, but you wonder what Deer Creek was going to do too. It was kind of some question marks with these two teams entering the season, and I think now you've got these two battling for the district title, and you made it the number 1 game of the week, and for good reason, I think. Because Deer Creek is a lot better than they started the season.
Yeah, they absolutely are. The other interesting game in that district is that Piedmont has actually battled back and put themselves in position to steal a playoff berth here with a game at McGuinness. Now it's going to be tough for them to go win at McGuinness. I think that there's a definite gap there. But if you'd asked me, in week 3 or 4 or 5 even, who in this district had a chance to steal one from one of the top 4, I would have told you Western Heights. And now they've dealt with some injuries. They took a beating against some of the big 4 in that district. But Piedmont has put themselves in position to come in here and steal one.
And I think that's a credit to the coaching staff there. But I also think getting Lucas Richard back at quarterback, he had an early season knee injury, and they really struggled offensively without him, and now he's back, and I see every week that he's putting up good numbers in the passing game, and if he can keep that up against McGuinness, and somehow their defense can slow down Braden Roy and Zach Siegel and guys like that, then Piedmont might be able to steal a spot, and that would be really incredible to see.
Obviously, really interesting district in 5A is District 1, where Ardmore, Lawton-Mack, and Altus are all 5-1 at the top. Altus, especially after Taven Burdo decided to move away, you really didn't see this coming. You wonder what that team could be with if he had decided to stay here. I mean, he already had a Tulsa offer as a sophomore running back.
Yeah, then and they're a very run-heavy team. I was talking to one of the 5A coaches that I think has seen some film on them and stuff, and they're doing exactly what Ardmore does. They're just a run-heavy team and pounding it, and I think they said the first couple of weeks it took the kids a couple of weeks to get used to it, and now that they're used to it, they're incredibly dangerous. I know Anadarko's coach Kent Jackson has really talked them up to me multiple times this season. Even though they took apart Altus, they said that was one of the best teams they played so far was Altus, and it's like I said, Burdo's gone, and I never would have dreamed of this coming because he was a star. He's a really, really good running back, and here they are. They really wreaked some havoc on that district.
Yeah, it's been incredible, and there's not a ton of depth in 5A. So I mean, they're a team that you've got to immediately look at as a really scary team in the playoffs. Let's move up to 6A for a minute. Now, last week you wrote a really good story on Caitlin Cox from Lawton, the female kicker, who went out the night of your story and kicked a game-winning field goal from 32 yards and made us look brilliant for timing that story on that day. But
we had that planned for the record.
Exactly, that's right. I was at the game, obviously, but you got to go down to Lawton early in the week and visit with her. Just talk about Caitlin and kind of what kind of person she is.
I really enjoyed my conversation with her. I talked with her parents. I talked with Steve Humans, a former Cameron and Lawton MacArthur kicker who works with her, and Breeze and Coach Rainey Breeze and some teammates. But she seems very special for that program. She was a trainer last year. Bringing water. She was one of the few trainers that was allowed to actually tape ankles, things like that, because she's got an interest in doing that in the future. And so the trainer, I know the trainer really well, and he trusts her to do things like that. But coming out in the spring, the kickers are struggling on the team. They don't have a kicker, struggling to make even extra points, and she goes out there and just starts nailing them. And Randy Breeze said one of the coolest things about her was she had never kicked a football before, but you could never tell. She just immediately started getting the air underneath it, kicking it well, and he kind of stayed away and didn't say much to her for a while. It was more the assistant coaches working with her and encouraging her, and finally she got the courage one day to go talk to him about it, and she just wanted to do the JV games. I just want to kick in JV, just one game. He said, well, why one and why just JV? So they start working around, and she gets as Breeze called it, a parade of kickers coming through. Soccer players, anybody that could find off the streets, I imagine. It's just kind of what it felt like. Like, hey, there's a bum on the street. Let's go throw him out there, see if he can kick. And she beat them all, and she's fascinating. She plays basketball. She plays soccer for Lawton High. She's going to start this year as on the basketball team. She took over starting goalie last year on the soccer team, so she's not even kicking full time in soccer. And but she's played every position, from what I understand, her whole life through soccer. And but she's splitting time between basketball and football practice. So some days she'll start a basketball practice, go out and kick, and then go back to basketball practice, or vice versa. And sometimes she just kicks, goes to basketball practice, and never comes back. It just depends on the day of the week and the schedule. And so I think it's really incredible to see a girl like that on a 6A program where there are 90 kids on the team, and she's able to get the kicking job and split her time, dedicate so much time to it to improve that much, to where she is hitting a 42-yard field goal, and she is hitting a game-winning field goal against a really good defense like Midwest City that's got some players that could be very intimidating and physical, and maybe even get through there and hit her. And I assume she was doing kickoffs, right?
Yeah, she was.
Did she come close, having to make a tackle? Because that was always the big concern.
There were a couple of times when it looked like, I mean, Midwest City is really good on special teams. Mm-hmm. They're known for being able to pop some long kickoff returns. So there were a couple of times when you started looking and you were glancing downfield just to see where she was when they were heading into the line. So, but she actually did a really good job. Obviously, she doesn't have the leg to put it in the end zone.
No,
and so she's got to get it up high and let the coverage team get down there and get in position. And so she did a good job with that. The thing that fascinated me most about that game last Friday night at Midwest City is number one, it was the best game I've seen all season. Number two, it was the most physical game I've seen all season. Mm-hmm. Both of these teams have really big guys, really fast guys, a lot of D1 talent on the field on both sides of the ball, particularly on defense. But there are big collisions all over the place. There are guys going at it, playing real football. And then all of this for 48 minutes, and it comes down to this 142-pound girl who comes out and knocks this game-winning field goal through. It was just such a fun atmosphere and event to witness and watch it work out that way. So just really a blast. And like I said, the best game I've seen all year, and probably the best I'll see in the regular season. I imagine. There's always a few playoff games mm-hmm. that go better than you expect. So. We'll see, but moving on in Class 6A, you wrote a little bit about Monday. Is this Warren Wan's last stand? His last ball game coming up. He's on the 5,000 yard mark, on the verge of 5,000 yards. What do you think? Are we gonna get to see him in the playoffs this year?
I think so. I think we'll get one game out of him. I think they're in a good enough scenario that they get some of those three-way ties. They've got enough points that they're fine. But you've got to wonder how long we're going to get to see him again. They've struggled at times. Even if they get into the playoffs, they're still going to have to play Union or Owasso the first round. And so far, we've seen that no one on the west side can beat an east side team in 6A1. And Mustangs come close a couple times, but they can't. They haven't been able to hold on in the fourth quarter. And so you've got to wonder how much time we have to see Warren Wan, which is a really big shame because and when you look at his career, it'd possibly just be 3 playoff games for him in his career.
Yeah. First
round exit the last 3 years then at that point. And it's really, really sad when you see that kind of an exciting player not get his chance to show off what he has against some of these schools on a bigger stage, because I will go on the record and say he's the most exciting player in the state to watch on a football field. He makes plays that kids just dream of making, and he makes them look routine. And I really hope this isn't his last week.
Yeah, he's definitely been the most exciting guy this year, and probably for a good part of the last 3 years as he's been doing what he's doing at Edmond Memorial. That district is really one of the most intriguing to watch as we figure out what's going to happen. You know, could somebody pull a big upset like Edmond Memorial going in and beating Broken Arrow, or what's going to happen with Putnam City and Westmore. Putnam City is out of it mathematically at this point, but they could be a little bit of a spoiler and really throw things into some turmoil. Same with Norman against Edmond Santa Fe; they could ruin things for them. So then UConn's got to take on Jinx, which is going to be a tough battle, but you never know. UConn's been playing much better than I envisioned them playing this season, with a 4-5 record heading into Week 10. That's been pretty impressive. So we'll see how that district shakes down. And I tried to do some math just really quickly in my head, which is never a good idea. But I believe the Big Four on the east side, Union, Owasso, Jinx, and Broken Arrow, are 24-0. Against, I think I said the west side. I meant the east side. The east side schools are 24-0 against the west side in 6A Division 1 this year. So pretty dominant.
That's incredible.
Pretty dominant performance by them. And I mean, there have been a couple of close games. You mentioned Mustang had leads on both Union and Owasso in the fourth quarter, and let those games slip away. Southmore played Owasso to a 3-point game. Other than that, nobody's been within 3 touchdowns of those guys, and so it's pretty wild what the east side has been able to do. We'll see if somebody can step up and take one of those teams down in crunch time now, because we're down to Week 10 in the playoffs. I mean, is there anything at this point that makes you believe that it's not going to be Jinx or Union at holding the gold ball at the end of the year?
No, I haven't seen anything. I've seen Jinx a couple times now, or once I think, and I saw Broken Arrow, and I've seen enough video of Union and Owasso to think I just don't see anyone beating them unless Mustang might be able to do it. They've shown the ability to get the lead on these teams, but nothing's going to change my mind about picking against them. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Mustang's got their opportunities. They're going to get another one with Broken Arrow in the playoffs. Up there again, they went up there and played Owasso. They got Union at home last week and let that one slip away. So we'll see if they can make another run. But I'm convinced that Union has been the best team all year. I think that even though they're still number 3 in the rankings and will probably stay there, unless Owasso loses between now and the next couple of weeks, I think Jinx has probably surpassed everybody else as the second best team in the state. I think that they're continually getting better, which is what you would expect with an Allen Trimble team. So I think it's another Jinx and Union year, and we're gonna add on to it, and they're gonna be on the verge of 2 decades of dominance of 6A football here by the beginning of December.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out to me about those teams, they're so dominant up front compared to the teams over here on the west. Yeah. It's just, and Jinx especially with Marquise Overton, man, he was so fun to watch against Santa Fe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Yep, it's another Jinx and Union year. It looks like anyway. So we'll see how the playoffs play out. Still a lot of football left, so it could go any direction at this point. Jacob, thanks for hanging out, and thanks for listening. And we'll be back with the NewsOK Varsity podcast again next week.